Alright, this is a very quick video on how to use the drawing tool, the free draw tool in particular. As we've talked about before, the key thing is, and the idea, is that you walk into the room without worrying about your laser measure or anything like that, and you just quickly touch all the corners of the room. Doesn't matter how you size every corner, something that looks like this. If I were to close it, is essentially the same as something that looks like that, because when you actually add in your dimensions, all the walls will resize. So walk in the room, touch the corners. Again, don't worry about getting dimensions yet. Worry about those only after you have created the shape. Other things to know, one big deal is making sure that you're not trying to draw things too small. It becomes real challenging if you're trying to draw a complex space and you're drawing it out like this and you want to try to create, so you run into scenarios where you're trying to create little bump outs or something like that, but the room is too small, so it's challenging to work on. Instead, regardless of the real size of the room, give yourself some space to work. You can always, if you need to, use the zoom out feature. Drag the drawing up if you need to. So if this room were to extend, down somewhere over here, it's not a problem. Other thing to know is that somewhat unlike Fluorestimate Pro, we don't care if a line is not quite long enough. If you've drawn the line and you need to add to it, you can always hit another line, even though it shows another vertex there, another point. It doesn't matter. We're not going to add another wall, so you can draw this shape without, again, without worrying about adding in corners or anything like that. So you can always add to a line. Another quick thing to discuss is using the diagonals. So one of the key things that we're looking to do as we draw out in the field is, where possible, in most cases, we're recommending, hey, don't draw diagonals if you don't need to. Even though you can do it in here, it takes a little extra work, and in most cases, the net product for the net estimating difference is going to be very small, and in fact a lot of times it's non-existent. So example would be, in my house I've got kind of bay windows, right? So I could go enable my diagonals by hitting that enable diagonal menu item, and create a bay window shape, right? The reality is, based on the size of the room that I've got this bay window in, the amount of extra product, if I were to just square this room off, for carpet it would all be waste anyway, so in reality it makes no difference. And for the hard surface, again, in a lot of cases, the little bit of extra, if this is a relatively small area, just go ahead and square the whole room off rather than worrying about drawing that bay window in. You can also, if you need to, remember, always add in a takeout if you want to square the room off, and then do a takeout for whatever the extra footage is if you really want to focus in on it. You can also snap a quick picture of the room so that you do indicate to yourself, hey, there is a bay window in this room, so if that has any installation implications, you can get those covered off. But you can enable and disable diagonals and create rooms that way. One key thing with diagonals, even more so than normal drawing with straight lines, is that you really want to make sure that you are not trying to draw too small. Again, it creates a lot of challenges to do very small diagonal lines. Just from a user perspective, it's not all that much fun. So if I'm doing my family room, for example, which has a bay window, and I wanted to do the diagonals, I would probably do this. I'd make it nice and big. The other thing I don't do typically is I don't enable diagonals until I need to start using them. And then I turn it off when I'm done. That way, all these lines that I'm creating that are just standard straight lines, I don't need to worry about potentially making an accidental diagonal line. Okay, so I'll go ahead and just make a little simpler shape here. From there, you obviously know you enter in just the individual wall dimensions, and you go. My suggestion is, obviously you start at 1, and you just walk the space measuring. Okay, and you actually don't need to add in, I should have done this, you don't need to add in the last dimension. You can leave that blank. So whatever the final wall is, just leave that blank and it will auto-calculate for you. Alright, so those are just a few quick tips on drawing. Again, the strong suggestion is draw only what you need to draw in order to get to an estimate. As we've talked about countless times, it's impressive the detail that we see in a lot of the measure square drawings, but the reality is that detail is oftentimes not incredibly important.